Welcome to our US Briefing Show. Today, we're diving into some exciting news from around the globe. First up, Chinese entrepreneurs and government officials are gearing up for business trips to US cities like New York and California. With recent improvements in US-China relations and a 90-day tariff pause, they see huge opportunities to boost trade and investment, especially in regions heavily dependent on exports like Zhejiang. Next, let's talk about the US labor market. Applications for jobless benefits ticked up slightly last week, rising by 8,000 to 237,000. But don't worry, employment remains healthy with a low unemployment rate of 4.2%. Despite signs of economic slowdown, the job market still shows resilience, though the Federal Reserve is considering interest rate cuts as growth slows down. Finally, Europe is stepping up its game with Ukraine. Leaders from about 30 nations gathered in Paris to discuss security guarantees amid ongoing tensions with Russia. While no firm commitments have been made yet, the summit shows Europe's desire to act independently and pressure Russia for peace. It's a tense but hopeful moment in global security discussions. Please continue to stay tuned for more detailed coverage. South China Morning Post reports that Chinese provinces like Zhejiang are preparing for a resurgence in US-China trade relations, as recent diplomatic developments have created a more optimistic environment. With the extension of the tariff pause and the thawing of tensions following talks in Stockholm, local governments and businesses are planning to send delegations to key American cities such as New York and California. These visits aim to leverage the relative autonomy of U.S. states, especially those with pro-business policies and sizable Chinese communities, to foster economic exchanges and explore new opportunities. Zhejiang, a major exporter to the U.S., is particularly eager to rekindle trade activities that were severely impacted earlier this year when tariffs soared, causing a significant decline in exports. Companies like BayFa are contemplating establishing American production bases, taking advantage of the current respite in tariffs, and Beijing's top trade negotiator has been engaging with U.S. officials to facilitate future talks. Despite these positive signals, lingering uncertainties and high tariffs, averaging over 40%, continue to pose challenges, and the overall trade environment remains fragile, with recent export figures showing a decline of over 21% year-on-year. Associated Press describes the U.S. labor market as resilient yet showing signs of slowing, with applications for jobless benefits rising slightly to 237,000 last week, slightly above economists' expectations. This modest increase indicates that while layoffs remain low, hiring has cooled, with the number of job openings dropping to 7.2 million by the end of July, the lowest since early 2023. The July jobs report revealed a sluggish addition of just 73,000 new jobs, prompting concerns about the economy's momentum, especially given the recent slowdown in growth to 1.3% in the first half of the year. Despite this, the unemployment rate remains at a low 4.2%, and the number of Americans collecting unemployment benefits continues to decline. The Federal Reserve is closely monitoring these trends, with signals suggesting potential interest rate cuts in upcoming meetings to support the economy amid ongoing uncertainties, partly driven by the impact of tariffs and trade tensions. CNN highlights the political drama surrounding the Federal Reserve's leadership amid President Trump's efforts to reshape the central bank. A key Senate hearing is scheduled to consider Stephen Miron's nomination to the Fed's Board of Governors, a move seen as part of Trump's broader strategy to influence monetary policy and potentially undermine the Fed's independence. The hearing could mark a turning point in the ongoing struggle over the Fed's future, especially as Trump's administration has launched unprecedented attacks on the institution for not aligning with his policy demands. Meanwhile, legal battles continue over the fate of Lisa Cook, a Fed governor fired last week, with courts reviewing whether she can remain in her position during litigation. These developments raise concerns about the politicization of the Fed and its ability to make unbiased decisions on interest rates, which are crucial for the U.S. economy's stability and growth. The situation underscores the tense intersection of politics and monetary policy, with the potential to significantly influence the direction of the U.S. economy in the coming months. The Deutsche Welle article vividly recounts the recent efforts of India and Canada to mend their strained relationship, highlighting the appointment of new diplomatic envoys as a pivotal step towards normalization. After months of diplomatic turbulence triggered by allegations from Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accusing Indian agents of involvement in the killing of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar, both nations are cautiously reopening channels of dialogue. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with Canadian counterpart Mark Carney during the G7 summit marked a hopeful turning point, emphasizing a mutual desire to restore stability through calibrated and constructive measures. Experts suggest that this diplomatic thaw signals a pragmatic shift, as both countries seek to diversify their international ties away from U.S. dependence, with Canada eyeing India as a strategic investment destination and both nations exploring broader trade agreements to bolster their economic resilience amidst global volatility. The South China Morning Post's coverage delves into the complex web of international security concerns surrounding Ukraine and the wider geopolitical rivalry involving the US, Europe, Russia, and China. European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, convened in Paris to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine, amid ongoing fears of prolonged conflict and Russia's refusal to accept peace terms. The summit underscored Europe's desire to act independently, with discussions about deploying troops and strengthening military support, though concrete commitments remain elusive. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin's assertive military posture, demonstrated through high-profile visits to China and North Korea and claims of advancing Russian forces on all fronts, underscores the intensifying global power struggle. The US's cautious stance, coupled with European frustrations over Russia's intransigence, reflects a tense geopolitical landscape where alliances are tested, and the potential for prolonged conflict looms large. The South China Morning Post's analysis of Chinese perspectives offers a nuanced view of Beijing's strategic mindset amidst U.S. rivalry and regional tensions. While Western narratives often depict China as seeking to supplant U.S. dominance with a new world order, Chinese public opinion appears more flexible and pragmatic, recognizing avenues to reduce tensions. Beijing showcased its military prowess with a parade featuring advanced missile systems capable of reaching the U.S., signaling its deterrent strength. Experts suggest that China's military advancements, including AI-powered weapons and new missile lines, are part of an ongoing arms race fueled by scientific progress. Additionally, Beijing is actively shaping regional influence through initiatives like training Southeast Asian aviation personnel and imposing tariffs on U.S. firms, reflecting a strategic effort to counterbalance U.S. influence and assert its own technological and military resilience. This complex landscape reveals Beijing's intent to project power while managing nuanced diplomatic and economic strategies in a multipolar world. The Deutsche Welle reports reveal a compelling narrative of ongoing struggles for justice and transparency surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, highlighting the courageous voices of survivors demanding full disclosure of the classified files related to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's abuse. At a poignant press conference on Capitol Hill, victims like Anuska DeGiorgio and Lisa Phillips passionately called for the release of these documents, asserting that transparency is essential for justice and accountability. Despite a partial release of over 33,000 pages, critics argue that much of the information has been heavily redacted, leaving survivors feeling unheard and frustrated. Advocates like Teresa Helm emphasize that the release of these files could catalyze further investigations, expose guilt, and prevent others from enduring similar trauma. However, President Donald Trump dismissed the issue as a hoax, sidestepping the victims' pleas and deflecting attention to national success, which only underscores the political resistance faced by those seeking justice. The victims' unified stance frames the controversy as a fundamental test of accountability in America, a fight to ensure that no one, regardless of wealth or power, is above the law. Meanwhile, Deutsche Welle's coverage of Africa's illicit financial flows paints a stark picture of the continent's ongoing economic hemorrhage, where billions are siphoned annually through tax evasion, corruption, and money laundering. The AU estimates that around $88 billion leaves Africa each year, depriving governments of vital revenue needed for public services such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Experts like Christoph Trottvetter and Idris Ling describe how multinational corporations and corrupt elites exploit tax havens and offshore accounts, exacerbating inequality and weakening state institutions. Although steps like automatic information exchange between countries and UN frameworks aim to curb these illicit flows, progress remains slow amid geopolitical tensions, COVID-19, and rising debts. Resource-rich nations like Nigeria and Angola are particularly vulnerable, with billions lost in profit shifting, funds that could otherwise improve millions of lives through better sanitation, education, and healthcare. The AU's efforts to combat these illegal activities are hampered by inefficiencies and resistance, underscoring the urgent need for greater transparency and stronger international cooperation to protect Africa's economic sovereignty and foster sustainable development. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the Slightl team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of Slightl Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.